This is CBC Compass.
This is Friday, March 13th. Tonight, new advice for Islanders to stop the spread of the coronavirus.
I'm asking Islanders to cancel all non-essential travel outside the country.
If you leave the country, you're self-isolating when you come back. New guidelines today from the Chief Public Health Officer. Also, the cruise ship season is delayed. More and more events are canceled or postponed. What will all of this mean for the island's economy? Plus, we talked to an emergency room doctor about what he's seeing and what he expects in the days and weeks ahead. Complete coverage for you tonight on Compass. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Louise Martin. We begin with new recommendations for Islanders to prevent the spread of COVID-19. There are still no confirmed cases in this province, but these new guidelines were announced just today. First, anyone who has traveled outside of Canada, and that includes the United States, should self-isolate after coming back to PEI. That is whether you are experiencing symptoms or not. Secondly, if you have plans to travel outside the country, the recommendation is that you cancel those plans immediately if you haven't done so already. And people should try to physically distance themselves from each other. The recommendation there is 2 meters. If you're going somewhere public where that isn't possible, then the advice is to reconsider going at all. Nicole Williams was at today's announcement and is in our studio tonight with the very latest. So let's go over more specifically some of those rules. So let's start with travel out of the country.
Yeah, Louise, this is certainly a shift from what we've been hearing from the Chief Public Health Office. Right now, they're recommending that anyone who has travel plans outside of the country, that includes the U.S., that you cancel those plans. And this comes at the same time the federal government is making those same recommendations. Here's Dr. Morrison.
But we thought it's very important that I'm clear about these recommendations before people go on March break. And we appreciate that people may have already traveled, but this is, we know that there may be others who have a chance to change their travel plans.
Now, she says that if you do decide to go out of the country, even if you're showing symptoms or not, that you need to keep yourself at home for 2 weeks. And this includes teachers, students, and medical staff. Right now, there's no plans to extend March break like we've seen in other provinces. But she says with the rapidly evolving situation that this is, that could change as early as next week. But again, anyone who's traveled outside of the country needs to self-isolate. Now, these aren't health orders. You don't have to do any of these things, but she says she strongly recommends it for the safety of the public.
And what does Dr. Morrison want us to do specifically about social gatherings?
Yeah, if you're getting together with anyone, she's asking people to keep a 2-meter distance between yourselves, especially if there are elderly people present or anyone with a compromised immune system. And if you can't keep that kind of distance, she's asking that you reconsider getting together completely. And that means you can also consider different ways of meeting up, including virtual hangouts. She says it's not so much about how many people are in one space at a time, but rather if you can keep that distance between each other. And says at this point, these recommendations will be in place for at least 1 to 2 weeks. Of course, that could change. But with these ever-evolving sort of scenarios that we're seeing with COVID-19, she says that it's probably the most responsible thing to do.
When we talk about, these are all public health measures that may limit the spread and the speed at which we see the cases, and may limit the number of cases we see on Prince Edward Island. So anything we can do to manage that, I think, is really important.
Nicole, right now we know there are no confirmed cases of COVID-19 on PEI, but did Dr. Morrison say how testing is going?
Yeah, well, we know that there are 2 clinics on PEI testing for COVID-19, one in Summerside and one in Charlottetown. And really, if you've traveled anywhere recently and have been experiencing symptoms, they say to call 811 and to get an assessment to see if you need testing. Now, we've been told today that that number has been inundated with calls, that people have experienced long wait times to get through to someone to see if they need to be assessed, but that they have hired additional staff, and there are actually 23 new phone lines at the service to deal with demand.
And how's the province going to be updating the public moving forward, Nicole?
Yeah, we've been told that there are going to be regular updates moving forward, potentially even over the weekend. Even if nothing new, they say that it's an opportunity for the province to answer any sort of frequently asked questions or concerns. And they say that they're going to be updating the government website, that it will include the number of testing that they've been doing at these clinics, as well as any confirmed cases of COVID-19 should they arise.
All right, thank you so much for this, Nicole. That is our Nicole Williams in studio tonight. So just moments ago, we learned that PEI Premier Dennis King is now himself self-isolating. He says he and his family were on a trip to Boston earlier this week. That had been planned several weeks ago. He says he was only in the U.S. for 24 hours, but is still taking all necessary precautions. He says his risk of exposure is low, and he and his family feel fine, but they're not experiencing any symptoms at this time. He will continue to work from home, where he will self-isolate for the next 2 weeks. A reminder once again about what you can do to help contain the spread of the virus. The biggest piece of advice is still to wash your hands frequently and for 20 seconds. Don't forget to cough and sneeze into your elbow and try not to touch your face. Don't share items like drinking glasses and water bottles, and make sure your kids don't share them either. And step up the cleaning. Wipe down surfaces like doorknobs, taps, and countertops as often as you can. And if you have any questions at all, PEI has set up an information line. It's toll-free, and that number is 1-800-958-6400. You can leave a message there, and you'll get a call back from the Chief Public Health Office. Well, all of this, of course, has created a lot of changes, cancellations. Some arenas and recreation programs are shutting down temporarily. Other events are canceled outright. So with the latest on that part of the story, our Brian Higgins joins us now live outside. So tell us, Brian, about some of these cancellations that you've learned about.
Yeah, well, Louise, as you know, it's hard to keep a distance of 2 meters in a crowded arena, so that's why so many are closing. And the situation this afternoon has been moving faster than a puck at a Panthers game. But I can tell you that late this afternoon, the city of Charlottetown confirmed that it is closing all its arenas, all its community centers, until further notice. So that includes Cody Banks Arena and Simmons Arena. And I've also been hearing that March break programs for kids during March break are being canceled by the city of Charlottetown, at Credit Union Place in Summerside, in the town of O'Leary, and up at the Carey Center at UPEI. Some smaller communities tell me that they are going to take their ice out completely because of the shutdown by Hockey Canada. So that includes places like Kensington and Three Rivers in Georgetown. And women university hockey players from across Canada were packing up and heading home today, disappointed and dejected after their national championship series was suddenly canceled last night, just hours after the first puck fell on the first games. I caught up with some of the athletes earlier today.
It is too bad, but it is for the best. You know, it's a good precaution, and it's understandable. You know, we respect Hockey Canada's decision, and it's just really unfortunate, but there's not much we can do about it but stay healthy. And
we have certain fitness programs for our students at school, and we can't do those anymore because the virus.
You sound frustrated.
Yeah, very.
But over the last certainly 36, 48 hours, right across the world, things have really heightened. But at the end of the day, you know, we're getting really good numbers here. You know, we had 1,700 people here yesterday for the first 2 games. And, you know, it's really about trying to prevent that spread.
So a lot of family, we have girls from BC, Alberta, a lot of their families came. Some people from Montreal drove. Yeah, I mean, but I think, you know, families, they travel every year with hockey, you know.
Yeah, so many changes in such little time there, Brian. So I guess the question now is, what's left that is actually open?
Well, you know, Louise, some of the bigger arenas say they will be leaving their ice in the hope of resuming some hockey programming in Summerside and Charlottetown. And the Carey Pool is still open at UPEI. They've reduced the capacity. They're allowing fewer people in. The Easter Beef Show and Sale, the future of that is up in the air. They're meeting tonight to decide whether it will go ahead on Thursday or not. Notably, UPEI and Holland College continue to hold classes. That's notable because so many other universities in Canada have canceled classes. Louise.
All right, Brian, thank you so much for trying to keep track of all these closures and cancellations. That's our Brian Higgins with the latest in Charlottetown for us live tonight. Well, the cruise ship season also on hold. No ships carrying more than 500 people will be allowed to dock in Canada until at least the beginning of July. There were 21 ships scheduled to dock in Charlottetown during the months of April, May, and June. They would have brought more than 26,000 passengers and nearly 7,500 crew members. All but 4 of those ships would have been carrying 500 passengers or more.
You know, this is something I think we all suspected was coming. I think in light of the current environment around the world, really, it was the right decision to make. Does it have an impact on the industry? Absolutely. Certainly not just from the port standpoint, but from the local economy, from all the small operators, tour operators, restaurants. So the impact will be felt across the island.
Clemens hopes the rest of the cruise ship season can be salvaged after July 1st. Most of the ships to PEI arrive in the summer and early fall. In September alone, in fact, 35 ships are scheduled to visit the Charlottetown port.
I know everybody's concerned. You know, it's their livelihood, it's their business. So one thing I can say is we're going to be there to work with you the very best we can. Let's hope that this doesn't last. You know, this is March. Our tourism season's still a few months away, so this is something that we could still rebound from.
Still, the delay of the season is expected to be a big hit to tourism this summer. The province is considering an aid package for tourism operators and is discussing that with Ottawa. One more note related to the coronavirus before we get to weather. Here's the impact on gas prices. We are seeing the second price drop in just 4 days. It's down 7 cents overnight. A litre of unleaded is now about 95 cents a litre. One of the driving factors behind the drop, lower demand because of COVID-19. Time for our nightly reprieve from speaking about this. Lots of information to get to you, and we appreciate that it can be quite overwhelming. So we're here to talk about the weather now and to tell you that it's going to be a windy one.
A windy one, but we are coming out of our storm season, at least, heading into calmer months, far away from hurricane season. So at least calmer weather picture as we get into closer to the start of spring and into the summer months. Not quite that calm this evening, though, but nothing too bad to be worried about. Wind warning in effect for all 3 counties. A variety of warnings all around PEI, but we're looking at warmer temperatures moving in, and we're avoiding the heaviest precipitation. That means after a quick shot of some wet snow, maybe mixing with an icy mix of ice pellets and maybe some patchy freezing rain, this is looking to be predominantly rain that falls across the island tonight in most areas between 5 to 10 millimeters. That being said, winds out of the southeast between 30 and 60. We are watching for those winds to be between 50 to over 80 kilometers per hour over the next few hours. And for coastal areas and exposed areas on the island, gusts over 90 will be possible, hence the wind warning for all 3 counties. Good news, winds will stay quite gusty, but they will ease and become southwesterly overnight. Look at that temperature, up as warm as 5 degrees. Should stay on the plus side for most of the day tomorrow. Strong westerly wind, just not as gusty as what we'll be seeing over the next few hours. Louise?
Thank you very much. Well, the province today revealed new details about its plan to bring high-speed internet to rural PEI, and the plans created by Bell and Xplornet more detailed than ever before. So starting this spring, Islanders will go online to find out exactly where and when internet services will roll out.
We've got a website designed right now that the Islanders are going to be able to get on and see what kind of service they're getting, time frames, their communities. We're trying to make it accessible that everybody can see it. We're in a position now with the contracts that we've done that we're going to be able to hold these companies to account, and Islanders will be getting high-speed internet in the near future.
So Islanders will be able to go online and search specific addresses to find out when services will be available in their area. McKay says there will still be about 2,500 civic addresses in remote areas of the province that won't be connected. Bell plans to begin its work in Tignish and Rollo Bay in late June. McKay says he hopes both companies will have the project done within 3 years' time, but the contracts give them up to 5 years to complete their work. A researcher at the Atlantic Veterinary College is looking for some boxers for a new study. Her hope to find a way to diagnose a fatal heart condition that often gets missed. Nancy Russell has that story.
Jax is excited to be here at the Atlantic Veterinary College. Owner Mitchell Myers heard about the new study on boxers on social media. He and his family have had boxers for years, so he was happy to sign Jax up to help.
Jax is a part of our family, just as much as the rest of my family, and if I could do something to proactively help them.
The study is looking at a heart condition known as boxer dog cardiomyopathy because it primarily affects boxers as a breed. Right now, there is no way to diagnose if a dog is going to develop the condition, which can be fatal.
We are trying to develop new tests, especially the tests that can help us identify this condition sooner than later.
As part of the study, the boxers wear a heart monitor, then run up and down flights of stairs. Agarwal says cardiomyopathy can cause changes in the electrical activity of the heart that can be seen on an electrocardiogram.
And the idea here is to see if exercise can help us expose those arrhythmias while these patients are in the hospital.
The dogs are also given a cardiac ultrasound, as well as testing their blood pressure and blood work, all searching for a way to predict if the dogs will develop the heart condition. There is room in this study for 30 boxers, and owners have been signing up from as far away as Halifax.
They want to see what their dog's heart look like. And also I have large majority of owners who are interested to help the breed as a whole.
Agarwal is still looking for a few more boxers to be part of the research. She hopes to complete the first phase of the study by the end of next year. Nancy Russell, CBC News, Charlottetown.
There's much more still to come on Compass tonight before 7 o'clock. Coming up, we'll have more from our Chief Public Health Officer on those new guidelines for Islanders about where you should and should not travel, what you should do when you get home. We'll also hear from an ER doctor at the QEH about what he expects will happen in the coming days and weeks and what he's seeing on the front line. And Canada's best women's university basketball player will be here. She's from UPEI. Jenna May Ellsworth will tell us about the team's recent bronze medal victory. Up next, Jay will have the full forecast and we'll tell you about his latest adventure at Mark Aren's ski park as well. We're back after this break. Okay, before we get to weather, why am I standing over here? A lot of you have been asking, what does 2 meters look like? That's the recommendation when you're at a social gathering. So I asked the Chief Public Health Officer that today, and she says it's average, your arm's length. So for Jay and I,
probably a bit more than
short arms.
Yeah, we have shorter arms.
But this is about 2 meters. So if you're at a social gathering, this is about how far you should be away from one another during this restrictive time.
We're going to need a bigger news desk, Louise.
That's the recommendation. We're all pre-rolled up and hands washed. All right, take it away with weather.
All right, let's take a look at our live shot right now into Charlottetown. And yeah, probably with our arm length, I would think that's a little under 2 meters. But a great guide and some good advice, and hopefully that lays it out for you so you know just how far you need to be. All right, there's a look at our live shot. Yeah, tower camera not as shaky at the moment as it would be in a few hours. The winds will continue to pick up. The winds are out of the south. That's going to see the temperature continue to pick up as well. So we could see a little bit of wet snow and some mixing for a brief period of time this evening. It will change over to rain, already at +1 in Charlottetown, and that temperature will be as warm by midnight, maybe around 5 degrees. So we are looking at those temperatures. Look at this, already up to the freezing mark now in North Cape, still slightly below that mark, but very close in East Point, +1 in Charlottetown, Summerside, as we look to Slemon Park, sitting at 2 degrees. All right, winds now gusting 40 to 70 kilometers per hour. We are looking at gusts expected to be in the 50 to 80K range for most areas over the next few hours, so late this evening. Could see gusts for more exposed coastal areas, potentially exceeding 90 kilometers per hour, and that is the cutoff for a wind warning. So all 3 counties still under that wind warning. Looking at a little bit of likely seeing some of this reaching the ground in some areas. Wet snow at the moment. But that's what's coming. Looks very impressive, a huge amount of rain on the radar, and it will be for some areas like the Fundy Coast and the Atlantic coast of Nova Scotia. For us, most areas between 5 and 10 millimeters of rain, just because this is a very fast-moving cold front. So it will be falling a bit heavily at times, but it's going to move across the island from west to east quite quickly. So there's the warm front. Strong southerly winds ahead of it, and then we clear out quite quickly by 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Should be seeing a pretty sunny start to the day. Strong westerly winds in the 30 to 60K range, not the 50 to over 80K range that we're going to see ahead of that cold front tonight. So it'll be more of a westerly wind tomorrow. And then late in the afternoon, some clouds, maybe a few isolated wet flurries mixing with some rain showers, as temperatures will still likely be 1 degree to 3 above the freezing mark during the afternoon tomorrow. And then we'll get into a cooler wind pattern. Winds will ease, some sunshine, but much cooler temperatures in the forecast for Sunday. As for tonight, temperatures will be rising above the freezing mark towards midnight. The showers should taper off long before morning, and then just a slight risk of isolated rain, snow showers late afternoon tomorrow. Similar story for central and eastern PEI, up around 4 or 5 degrees by midnight. Then we'll see those temperatures ease back down into the afternoon tomorrow, but still quite nice aside from those brisk winds and maybe a light rain and snow shower late afternoon into the early evening. Just a slight flurry risk on Sunday. Monday will be cooler, and we could see some flurries as well developing through the day. And then as we take a look at that long-range forecast, bit of a roller coaster with a few milder days in the mix. All right, let's take a look now quickly at your national temperatures. And now our photo of the day. This one's very fitting as I walk back to the news desk. This is Brookvale. Beautiful shot from the chairlift. And Louise, I got to experience quite a different experience from that chairlift we'll share in just a second. Get us your photos, compass@cbc.ca to do that by email.
Yes, you were hanging around there a little while, and this was a training
exercise. So if the lift breaks down, which it does from time to time, they need to get the folks down. And the way they do that can be a little frightening, but it is indeed safe, and that all is because of the amount of training that goes in from the Canadian Ski Patrol at Brookvale, plus the Mark Arend Ski Park team of folks that do these chairlift rescues. So I had a chance to actually experience that as a dummy, a training dummy. Check it out.
What am I going to be experiencing today?
Well, we're going to be doing a rope evacuation of the chairlift to show you what happens if we absolutely had to get people down and didn't have mechanics or electronics. This is what we would do.
Okay, so this is if the lift stops working, which never happens, by the way, right?
Unfortunately, lifts are just machinery and it happens, but we've never had to do a rope evacuation. basically we'll have people in the chair like yourself, and
So I'm the training dummy.
The training dummy,
Okay.
definitely. Well, what you're going to see first is a team lead coordinator who's going to be underneath your chairlift, reassuring you and explaining all the steps of the process as other staff members are laying the gear across the hill and getting it ready.
I'm going to take you down first, Jay.
Okay.
We're going to bring the sling up to you, and you're going to put it underneath the bar and over your head and through your arms, and you're going to tighten the buckle up.
They'll instruct you how to put it on and how to snug it up and how it needs to fit and
So
where.
the folks that you're rescuing actually are part of the rescue process. They're part of the team then.
Absolutely. Everyone plays a role, and unfortunately for the person in the chairlift, they probably have the scariest part of the team exercise, but at the same time, staff are really well trained and well practiced, and I have every confidence in them if ever we were to have to use this process.
Ease myself off the chair.
Yeah, take one arm and hang on to the back of the chair.
Okay.
As you slide off.
And then just ease off.
Ease off. They got you.
Okay.
And come on down.
All right. All right.
Great.
Wow. That was fast.
You can imagine this happened at 8 o'clock at night in February when it's dark, and if the wind is blowing, the wind chill factor could be minus 30. So hypothermia is our biggest fear, and speed in getting them down safely is our goal. Other than that, just a matter of conveying the instructions to each of the skiers, making sure they understand, making sure that they are following the instructions completely in a good loud voice, and we get them down as you found out as quickly as we can.
Not too quickly though. That would be a fall if it was any faster. So thank you so much, Scott, for your time. I really appreciate you giving us a peek behind the scenes of what Ski Patrol does for something like this in terms of training, and with me as the training dummy today.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Coming up on Compass, PEI's Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Heather Morrison, is my guest ahead following today's change in recommendations for Islanders traveling outside of Canada. Dr. Morrison will now hold a daily briefing, the very latest for you after the break.
I'm Mitch Cormier. Monday on Island Morning. What if your insurance company asks for permission to do a credit check before it gives you car insurance? Some companies in Nova Scotia are asking, and we'll find out why. Yvonne Colbert with that story, Monday on Island Morning.
at this point, I don't think my guest tonight needs an introduction, but Dr. Heather Morrison, PEI's Chief Public Health Officer, is my guest again this evening. Thank you so much for taking the time.
It's always a pleasure to be here, Louise.
You must be exhausted.
It's a hectic time, and as we've talked about before, this is such an evolving situation, and within 24 hours, lots can change.
Are you surprised at how quickly it's changing?
I think we're a little surprised at, as you mentioned, the pace of the change. Certainly, I guess part of being a pandemic is a broad spread, but also that the number of cases can increase so rapidly.
So let's just go over the new recommendations that were announced today. So non-essential travel outside of Canada, including the U.S., avoid that.
Yes, and again, that's our recommendation for Islanders, and I think some of that's being repeated across the country. And it's really to try to limit the spread of the COVID-19 to other Islanders upon their return. Most of the cases in Canada to date are travel-related, and so that's why some of these public health measures that we're recommending are really to try to we call flatten the curve or limit that spread and limit the number of cases and that spike and slow that down a little bit over the weeks ahead.
So self-isolating for 14 days upon your return if you have traveled international. When should that start? So if someone came home yesterday or a couple of days ago, should they indeed be in that 2-week isolation period?
I think so. I mean, the announcement was made today really for on a go-forward basis, and certainly we wanted to make sure it was clear before March break started. But if you returned yesterday, absolutely, or the day before, it would be really reasonable to be self-isolation for that total of 14 days. And again, I mean, we're seeing people come in from different parts of the United States, UK, Europe, and almost everywhere has it. So I think it's partly to protect the most vulnerable and in our community. And no Islander wants to make anyone else sick. We want to protect our community and protect the people we care about and work with. And so I think it's an important measure, again, that is being implemented in various places.
So we have a couple of questions that I got from some of our viewers. What do you tell someone elderly, say, so this person has parents in Florida, elderly parents like in their 90s, should they stay put? Do they come home? Sort of what's the advice there?
Well, I mean, if they do come home from Florida,
they'll
at
be
this
in
point,
isolation.
They'll be in self-isolation, so that if they have family here, then they will, help them, help support them, but they will be in isolation. That's the recommendation. Now, how long we are in this time of self-isolation and these measures, it's hard to know for sure, but I predict for the next month or two. So I think it would depend on when they're expecting to come home.
So that would go into my next question. How long are these sort of recommendations in place for? So a month to 2 months?
And again, that is based on what we know about the coronavirus in the past. And
right.
So that really usually an 8-week period of time where you see the real increase in cases and then a decrease. And we've seen that in China, in the Hubei province, where there's been a big increase, but now we're not seeing as many cases from there, but we're starting to see them elsewhere.
Right.
Important to make these kind of recommendations before it's sort of too late. We need to go out ahead of it.
Yeah, we still don't have a confirmed
don't have a confirmed case, but we anticipate that, and these kind of recommendations are not made without me and the whole team understanding the impact that they have on everyone, families, workplaces, and so but I do think it's the best decision we can make to try to protect us all over the weeks ahead.
I don't know if you can answer this one because I'm not sure anyone knows, but once you've been infected and you no longer have it, can you catch the virus a second time?
I think they're not there's just a lot of work to be done on that area. There's some indication you may have some immunity for a period of time.
Okay.
But again,
still,
I think
there's so many unknowns, right?
Very much unknown, and we'll learn a lot more about it in the months ahead.
And then as far as symptoms go, you said 80 to 85% of people will have mild symptoms. How long can you go without showing any symptoms, is there a period of time there that you could show no symptoms? Is that why the 2-week period is so important?
So the symptom onset after exposure is usually sort of 2 days, but more on average 5 to 6 days after the exposure. But it's not been shown to have symptom onset after 14 days.
Okay.
So that's why, although average around 5 or 6 days, as early as 2 days, we extend it out to 14 days, and that's based on the Public Health Agency guidance.
All right, well, I'm sure we'll be chatting a lot more over the next little while, but we certainly appreciate your time. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
So those are the recommendations. But how are emergency departments preparing? The CBC's Steve Bruce spoke with the chief of the emergency department at Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Dr. Ron Whalen.
It's not really changed our volumes by much, but traditionally this time of year is busy anyway in an emergency department. Flu season, winter, lots of illness, people falling. This tends to be one of the busier times of the year on PEI for an emergency department anyway.
So are you prepared for that demand here at the ER to increase even more?
We're prepared for if there's a lot of sick people coming in the door with COVID that require intubation. We've gotten the department ready for that situation. The problem becomes, where do we put them? Because the hospital is operating at 100% capacity all the time. So we'd have to empty out some of the hospital in order to make that, to find a home for these people. So that becomes a real issue when you start to go above that 100%, 150% capacity. And that's what's happening in Italy and other places, that they've just massively blown out their capacity, but in a very short period of time. And so the hope that all these public health measures is to delay that spike and make that spike, instead of a big spike over 2 weeks, to make that spike over 6 weeks, and hopefully that way, instead of being at 250% capacity, or we can be at 170, and maybe that's copable. So, but yes, as for the general public to understand, yes, the emergency department, if there was a sick patient with COVID-19 today in the province, the emergency department is ready and set up to deal with it.
And how do you deal with it? If someone does show up, what then?
Well, it depends on how sick they are. Of course, that's part of the triage process. So if they're not sick, so if you or I walk in the door and we've got some mild symptoms, then we just tell them, you got to call 811 and we'll arrange for testing. And in the interim, you're going to go home, be on self-isolation. Public health will follow up on it. That's easy. If they're moderately sick or they need admission to the hospital, then they're going to be taken into the emergency department. They'll be properly worked up in a safe room where it's all the pressurization is done so that the bacteria or the virus doesn't go out into the community or out into other people in the waiting room. And then they'll be admitted to the hospital after the appropriate testing, and they'll be also isolated somewhere where they can't infect anybody else, in a similar manner to influenza, because that's a very similar similar virus. If they're extremely sick, needing intubation, which is basically where we put a tube down their throat and breathe for them, then we're all set up for that as well, and to do it in an environment where the virus doesn't get spread in the hospital or into the community or into the patients in the waiting room. And then we have protocols in place for then that patient goes to the intensive care or to wherever else in the building they need to go so that they're properly cared for. So it's all set up. It's just, are we prepared for the volume that potentially could come? Not yet, but it's being worked on. It's very difficult to plan and prep for that sort of thing in a system that has to provide care for everybody else as well at the same time, right? Like, it's not like we can just shut off the tap and just do coronavirus preparation. We still have to look after the sick people that come, the heart attacks, the strokes, the falls and the fractured hips and all those other things that need to happen. And we haven't quite got to that point where we're shutting everything off to just prepare. But we're getting to that step now. It takes time because this is such a new concept to everybody in here. Now, there's been lots of discussion with ICU and Emerge and with the rest of the building about how to prepare. So are we ready? No. Will we be ready when it actually hits? Hopefully it never hits, right? I mean, that's the goal here, is that all the public health measures keep it to a very dull roar. But if it does hit, then we'll be ready when it comes.
So there you have it. Now coming up, the Trackety Players are getting ready for the Spring Dinner Theatre fundraiser, and a few members stopped by to talk to Jay about what's on the menu and on the bill that's just ahead. The UPEI Panthers earned bronze at the Women's Basketball Nationals last week. Probably don't have to tell you that. The first time the team has come home with some hardware since 1989. They managed to erase a 10-point fourth quarter deficit to win the U Sports bronze medal game in Ottawa. And tonight I'm happy to welcome Jenna May Ellsworth to our studio. Also, University Sports Player of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
How does it all feel? Are you getting used to being called the best in the country?
I don't
You
think
personally?
I don't really get used to that. I mean, I've had so much support across the entire island, so many messages, so it's been pretty cool.
Are you used to the feeling of being the bronze medalist? That's amazing.
It is pretty amazing for our first time at Nationals. I mean, I've been playing at UPI for 4 years now, and that's our first time going to Nationals. And to get a medal the first time you go is pretty cool, pretty incredible.
You must be getting congratulations all over the place wherever you go.
It's pretty, it's exciting for sure for the island in general, for the home university to have that kind of success. And it's been a while since we've had that kind of success. I'm not sure when the last time was UPI had a medal at a national championship, but it's been a couple of years for sure.
So when you knew you were winning that award as well, the Player of the Year, how did you feel? That's a huge honor.
It really is. I mean, there's so many incredible athletes. Yeah. I mean, I played against a lot of them at that tournament, and to think that I was chosen over so many great athletes and even my teammates. There's so many great players on my own team that I was surprised to be chosen.
What was it, do you think, kind of going in as the underdogs really here, that pushed you so strongly to come out so strongly?
I think it was kind of our motivation. We got ranked 6th out of 8 teams, so we were kind of on the lower end there. But I mean, we were matched up with the 3rd place team, so I think that was kind of our motivation, right? We're ranked a little lower, but I mean, you got to go in like you're going to win every game, just like you win around here in AUS. So I think we just kind of went with the mentality, let's go out and win and do our best, whatever we can to win. And we definitely stuck to that, and everyone showed that they could compete at a national level for sure.
Do you feel the win has helped you bond with your teammates even stronger?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, we're a close group of girls. Yeah. I mean, if you look at our starting lineup, we've been together except for Lauren Rainford, who is a new addition this year, a rookie. But we've kind of been together for 3-4 years, a lot of us. So to kind of go to the national stage and prove that has been awesome. And we've definitely been close over the years too. But definitely brought us closer for sure.
I can't imagine what a great experience is that, to kind of experience that together as a team. And I guess my last question for you is, how thankful are you, given all the sports cancellations now, that your championship was last weekend?
Oh, I mean, I feel bad for those girls on the hockey. They've worked hard all year. I mean, to host nationals, I mean, they've been preparing all of the athletic department. I mean, we were supposed to volunteer this weekend and everything got canceled. So we are very grateful that our nationals was held last week. And I mean, with everything going on, we're just very grateful for sure.
All right. So good to meet you in person, and congratulations once again.
Thank you so much.
The Trackety Players are getting ready for its spring dinner theater in April. A few members came by in full costume, of course, to bring Jay all the details.
Well, the Trackety Players do this twice a year. Big fundraiser that helps a few different organizations. We have Joe, and I'm going to break the fourth wall here a little bit, if you don't mind. In character, we have Bessie and Maggie Bags, right?
Maggie Bags.
Okay, so Trackety Players at the Trackety Community Center. This is quite a deal. So let's talk about this event, because the price tag really blew my mind here.
Tickets are $30. We do this twice a year, spring and fall. It's all the funds go toward the community, so all of the players are volunteers. It's a full chicken dinner with all the trimmings and an evening of entertainment with 3 original skits. Doors open at 5 o'clock. Seating is at 5:30, and dinner served promptly at 6 o'clock.
So $30 gets you, you can look at it as a $30 dinner with free entertainment, or $10 a skit with a free dinner. I think this is a great price. Plus, helping out the Lions are being helped by this, the community center. So this is helping out the community as well. And when it comes to the entertainment, we have a couple of different skits here. Bessie, can I ask you about yourself and what folks could expect from you on that night?
Well, I'm in a skit called The Baked Sale.
The Baked Sale, okay.
And sometimes I do maybe another little skit.
Okay, all right. The Baked Sale, okay. And then we have Maggie Bags here.
Yes, I'm in the skit called Courthouse. And
you're dressed appropriately for the courthouse, by the way. I was assuming lawyer.
No, a lawyer? No.
Legal robes, right?
No.
Okay.
I'm illegal. I'm out making my money off the street.
Oh, okay, all right.
By singing.
By singing, okay.
singing.
So folks can expect a little bit of singing as part of this skit.
Yes, they can.
All right, so you hear Maggie Baggs, who is maybe breaking the law, but doing some fine singing as well. So that's just 2 of the 3 skits that you can expect. And this is coming up the end of April, right?
Yes, it is. 25th and 26th of April.
Okay, so 25th and 26th of April, the Trackety players at the Trackety Community Center, just $30 gets you dinner, plus those 3 skits. Act fast. Seating plan is up on the website, and that's where we can get those tickets,
That's
right?
right, yeah. TracketyCC.com is the website.
And there's a phone number as well?
There is. Barry will sell you tickets, 902-388-0240.
Okay. I believe we've had that number up on the screen at times for folks watching this at home, and you can always get the information you need at TracketyCC.com.
Thank you very much. If you'd like to be in our community segment, you can always get in touch with us here at CBC PEI. Of course, the number to call, 629-6480. The email, compass@cbc.ca. Well, it's not just PEI. Canada's top health official is strongly urging against all international travel to help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Today, my advice is to postpone or cancel all non-essential travel outside of Canada. This means reconsidering your vacations, going to sporting and entertainment events, large international conferences.
Dr. Theresa Tam also warned travelers they could potentially face further quarantine restrictions in other countries. Everyone coming to Canada from other places is being asked to self-isolate for 14 days as a precaution. In addition, the federal government says all international flights into Canada will be restricted to landing at a small number of airports. We'll have more details on that expected soon from the government. Bank of Canada is cutting its key overnight interest rate by another 0.5 percentage point in response to COVID-19. Bank Governor Stephen Poloz made that announcement during a joint news conference with Finance Minister Bill Morneau. So some extreme measures being taken here. Morneau outlined some of what will be in a federal stimulus plan coming in the next few days. It includes additional funding for the provinces and for medical research. Ottawa is also providing billions of dollars in support for businesses.
Today, I'm announcing that we are establishing our credit facility program to support businesses and to stimulate the economy. This will make $10 billion available in additional support for Canadian businesses through the Business Development Bank of Canada and Export Development Canada.
Many of these measures are positioned so that the banking system continues to work. It's not about doing something separate from that. That's if the banking system continues to work well and people are able to tap their credit lines, et cetera, uninterrupted to get them through this, then I think we will have achieved a major buffering action.
And south of the border, U.S. President Donald Trump announced new measures today to fight COVID-19.
To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. Two very big words. The action I am taking will open up access to up to $50 billion.
Trump says he talked to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau yesterday about his wife Sophie Gregoire's condition, but he says they did not discuss the border. So how did the financial markets respond to all of this today? Well, you can see there a sense of relief, a sense of probably relief that some money, some financial action plans are being put into place. So the dollar's still lower, below 72 cents US. The TSX gaining some ground, up 1,200 points. Still not enough, though, to erase the deep losses we've seen over the past few days. The Dow up nearly 2,000 points by the closing bell. Quick check of commodities now. We did see the price of oil climb a little bit today, 23 cents higher. Gold off by $73.60 US an ounce. All right, so just some breaking news for you. This is changes at UPEI after March 20th, 2020, and for the remainder of the semester, no in-person classes being held at UPEI. This includes labs, with the exception of small group size labs within the veterinary medicine. After March 20th, they will move to alternate course delivery. We'll have much more on this in the coming days. Jay, go ahead and get us to weather if you want, but I'll read through this as you're doing weather and get
Major
more.
breaking news. All right, Louise might have more when I'm done weather, so I'm going to go quickly on weather. Not too quickly. You have time to read, Louise. Just a few clouds to start the day tomorrow. The rain, the strong winds will wrap up tonight. Very gusty this evening, already becoming quite gusty. Those winds will remain brisk through the day tomorrow. We'll see a fair amount of sunshine through the first half of the day. We'll lose a bit of that sunshine, though, in the afternoon, and by late afternoon, early evening, slight risk of a few isolated rain and snow showers, but nothing too heavy and very mild.
All right, thanks. A few more notes for you here on this. No in-person exams for this semester. Faculty have been encouraged to provide alternate forms of assessment. Just quickly, remain open for operations. All building services will be open to students and faculty, so no in-person classes after March 20th at UPEI. That's just late breaking news for you. Have a good weekend, everyone. We'll have much more for you through the weekend and on Monday. Good night, PEI.